Let's take a spoiler-free look at what's different in this year's Resident Evil 3 Remake, so you're ready to face everything Racoon City has to offer. We can't deny this is the best Jill Valentine has ever looked. And while we're certainly fans of the classic sandwich line, this is unquestionably her greatest performance too. The classic miniskirt design is gone, though still available as a pre-order bonus, is instead replaced with a more modern jeans look and tank top combo. She's not the only one to get a rework either, with Carlos and his companions, Nikolai and Mikhail, all showing off updated designs. Carlos, in particular, has had a complete overhaul and is now sporting a surprisingly voluminous head of hair. He received an expanded role to match, so expect to see and play a lot more of him as you make your way through the story. Thanks to new mo-capped face work, the expressions and delivery during cutscenes are even more impressive than in Resident Evil 2. Our memories can be a fickle thing, so to make sure that Resi 3's Big Bad lives up to the spectacle we recall stalking us over 20 years ago, Capcom has seriously beefed up Nemesis' toolkit. The STARS Hunter is based on the same foundation as Resident Evil 2's Mr. X, but while that guy was happy to plod along at a brisk walk, Nemesis is much more of a bully. An upgraded tyrant model, he's capable of grabbing you with tentacles, and can land a punch while on the run. He won't stop when you're down either, continuing his assault until you dodge out of the way or fall down dead. Oh, and did we mention that a couple of key points? He won't respect the sanity of safe rooms? Yikes. While he is relentless, exhausting pressure, Nemesis will actually only appear a few key moments in the game, arguably less than in the original. Each appearance will see him boosted in power, including wielding a new flamethrower that makes for some spicy boss fight encounters. We'll skip over the obvious camera and control changes here to focus on the more interesting gameplay changes for Resident Evil 3. Live selection, Resident Evil 3's monumentous decisions which could impact the story or even end Jill's life, have been completely removed. These instances were one of the most unique things about the original game, but never appeared in a Resident Evil title since. So it's safe to say that Capcom wasn't too fond of how they played out. What does return is the dodge mechanic, albeit in an updated, more stylish form. With the tap of the bumper, Jill can make a swift movement in any direction, potentially saving her from a zombie's grip or the swinging fist of Nemesis. Time it just right and you'll execute a perfect dodge, giving Jill a chance to land a powerful counterattack at an enemy's weak point. It feels incredibly satisfying and makes sense for Jill given her extensive Special Forces training. Overall, Resident Evil 3 is an even more action-heavy game than the original, packing Racoon City with zombies to gun down or dodge. The threat of Nemesis lurking in the background, and the increased enemy count can make for an oppressive atmosphere, but one with a lot less horror. Last year's Resident Evil 2 Remake chopped and changed bits of the original story while maintaining the overall structure. Resident Evil 3 is no different. Though there's a noticeable absence of a few famous monsters from the original. We'll avoid major spoilers for those yet to experience the game, but Resident Evil series stalwarts will notice an absence of the Gravedigger worm, which terrorizes Jill briefly in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Gone too are the multiple endings the original offered up, with the remake sticking to more concrete closure for the story. The roles of side characters have been beefed up quite a bit, and that goes beyond just Carlos's gang. Figures like Marvin and Robert Kendo also get extra, if brief, time to shine, all of which helps bring the story to the forefront in the remake. Sadly, one of the biggest ways the Resident Evil 3 remake remains markedly similar to the original is in its length. Resident Evil 3 will likely run you just over 6 or 7 hours on your first playthrough, which is a tad short for our taste. Sure, experienced players will have been able to blitz through last year's Resident Evil 2 in a couple of hours after mastering their path, but the original run lasted much longer, and there was far more replayability on offer here. For solo players, Resident Evil 3 is a less generous package, but for those who like multiplayer, there's something else new in store. The original Resident Evil 3 was the first time regular mercenaries mode made an appearance. But for this entry, Capcom has dropped the mercs in favor of a new and strange multiplayer component, called Resident Evil Resistance. It pits 4 survival players against a lone mastermind. The survivors must work together to solve minor puzzles, and work their way through an Umbrella facility, all while the mastermind throws monsters, traps, and more their way. It's certainly of interest, but whether it'll hold much of a player base in the long run remains to be seen. So there you have it, the biggest ways in which Resident Evil 3 changed since the 1999 original. Following such an upgrade in visuals, control, and more, it'd almost be better to consider how the 2 games remain the same. Are you a fan of Resident Evil 3's new look? Let us know in the comments below.